Russia's attack near Ocheretyne seems to have come to a conclusion. But is that just a small part of Russia's grand ambitions for 2024? I'm Paul, U.S. Army combat veteran. We're going to talk about just how Ukraine stopped this attack, but more importantly, how they can stop Russia's eye-popping ambitions for the rest of the year. Let's get into it. Okay, first, taking a look at the control map, the number one most important area that we want to talk about in the last 24 hours or so, you can see here, last update is no update. For the first time, we haven't really seen any substantive progress. We've seen a little bit of Russian consolidation as Russia consolidates this roadway here. Again, this is probably more a reflection of Ukrainian forces as simply withdrawing. There's nothing to hold here, right? This is a road that connects a Russian-controlled town to a Russian-controlled town. There's no reason to lose personnel fighting this. So Ukrainian forces likely withdrawing and probably occupying more defensible regions, likely in this Sokil region, probably on the west side of this water formation, right? You can see here, it literally appears to be forming a sort of little defensive perimeter that likely is keeping the Russians at bay. You can literally see them not wanting to get too close to this river formation and the town of Sokil, as well as Volskod and Yevnivka. And you can see why, right? This is great. It's got an obstacle here, a little crescent that's going to be really hard for infantry units to cross. It also has a town and a protected roadway here with a lot of forested area. So it's a really tough little redoubt to try to take. I think Russians likely realize that this is a tough nut to crack, and they probably don't have the capabilities at this point to crack it, given the strength of Ukrainian reinforcements. Again, I think you're still going to see this salient around Ocheretyne. Ukraine's going to withdraw from it. They may try to bring these forces back to Arkhangelsk, but they're much more likely, I think, to occupy positions north of this Kalinova and north, more critically, of this reservoir canal system that's just a huge defensive perimeter that really is just almost too good to pass up for Ukrainian forces. So again, we may see continued Russian territorial control, but it's not going to be a result of Russian attacks. It's probably going to be a result of Ukrainians looking at the terrain and saying, okay, where do we want to have this fight? In terms of other changes, right, the only other substantive change is, let's see if I can find it here, is near Natalyova. You can see Natalyova, just a small advance. Again, Russians doing what they do best, which is waves of people advancing block by block through a town or forest. But when you zoom out, you can see that this is not part of any of their major objectives. Now, if you feel like you are struggling to get your major objectives done, you don't have to be like the poor Russians. You don't have to recruit a bunch of prisoners and have them charge in human wave attacks. You can just buy some strike gum. Strike gum, 90 milligrams of caffeine in every piece. That's as much as a Red Bull, as much as an Amp Energy, 100 milligrams of alpha GPC, for further cognitive enhancement, zero sugar. So if you're looking for a way to get all the energy of an energy drink with none of the sugar, and we all know energy drinks, they're like $4 at the gas station, right? This pack contains the equivalent of 5 of those energy drinks. You could throw it in your gym bag, throw it in your glove box, just throw it in your drawer at work, you know that you got to go back to the office, right? Wherever you need a boost, that's where you can put your pack of Strike Gum. So if you want to, go to strikegum.com. That's where you can get all the discounts, the new customer discounts, the veteran discounts. But if you already have an Amazon account, you can just go to amazon.com and search for Strike Gum, and it'll pop right up. And thanks to the dozens of people who have already left us 5-star reviews, that makes a huge difference on Amazon. So thank you guys so much. Now, let's talk a little bit about Russia's larger objectives. And Ukrainian officials, right, they are trying to break Russian OPSEC, right? Russia wants its plans kept as close as possible, and the Ukrainians want to expose it. We know that the opposite sort of happened when the U.S. service member leaked the plans for the Ukrainian offensive. It seemed like Russia was totally prepared for it and totally ready. And those plans quickly became public. But Ukraine can do the same thing to Russia. And they've announced that Russia is aspiring to seize the entirety of Donetsk and Luhansk Oblast, which is huge, which is a huge area for them to take. Let's see if we can just zoom in on what that looks like on the maps here. And okay, wait. This is the cities, Donetsk and Luhansk Oblasts. Okay. And show me some images. Let's find a map. Here we go. Okay. So as you can see, these are large areas. Let's see if we can get some triangulation here. This is probably the best, I think. Okay, so actually, this isn't even that good either. This is a dated map. Let's try to find a good one. I'm really shocked that there's not a better one that lets us really triangulate where everything is. And Google Maps is just like not that good for this sort of thing. But maybe we'll try. Maybe Google Maps will give us a better perspective. It's really a pain here. Because I want to know, right? We need to know where. Oh, here we go. Here's the Luhansk Oblast. So you can see the Luhansk Oblast stretches not to Kharkiv, but it stretches to Kupiansk, Lyman, Horlivka, and then down. Now we're into like Donetsk Oblast. But you can see here that basically they have a large portion of this, right? Severodonetsk. As you zoom in, you realize that Russia is pretty close to seizing the entirety of this, right? You see they still need to get this Novohorivka. But when we plot it against areas Russia currently controls, you can see that they actually control a large portion of Donetsk Oblast, right? Or Luhansk Oblast, right? Kupiansk is held by Ukrainian forces, but they actually expand beyond this, right? There's Bakhmut. And so it's kind of tough. Now, when we look at Donetsk Oblast, right, you could see that this is a little harder. They got to seize Kramatorsk. Again, Lyman, right, stretching down to Mariupol all the way to Velko Novosika, Komar, Udichi. So you can tell that for Russian forces, they actually have to make a lot of gains in this area, right? But I think that is part of, so this is actually a fairly doable objective for Russian forces. It's not preposterous, but the idea, I think, is to seize these two oblasts, my thesis, and then Russia can plant the flag and declare victory. They can say, great, these two oblasts, they'll rewrite history. They'll say, this was always our objective. These two oblasts are the ones with the largest number of Russian speakers, and we've liberated them from the tyranny of being able to vote for their leaders. And now we are going to integrate them into the Russian Federation, and Russia may unilaterally declare victory. Very possible, right? If they're able to take Donbas, right, Ukraine speculates they may then go after Zaporizhzhia Oblast, but it seems sort of unlikely. Now, the Russian forces do have a plan, according to the Ukrainians, to seize Kharkiv or Sumy, but it's really not clear whether that's a serious plan. And you can see why. Kharkiv would require Russia to not only reverse all the Ukrainian gains from their Kharkiv offensive a year and a half ago, but they would actually have to expand that, reaching all the way encircling one of the largest cities in Ukraine, right? Which is a pretty tall order. I mean, you can see the density of this Kharkiv region, and you understand how incredibly hard it would be for Russian forces. In fact, the last time a major urban area was seized, possibly Bakhmut, but even that's more of a town. I would say that Severodonetsk, a oblast capital, is probably the closest to a proper city seizure that we've seen, and that was almost 2 years ago now. So I say this because I think at least the Ukrainians are saying that Russia's attempting to seize the town of Chasiv Yar, that's due west of Bakhmut, but until Western aid arrives, it really fully arrives, Russians are operating with a 10-1 artillery advantage and what Ukrainians are calling total air superiority. But what they mean is the fact that Russian forces can conduct glide bomb strikes. They can't still get that. Their aircraft can't get close, but without Patriot missiles, the aircraft can't be kept at a distance. And so the idea, I think, even Ukrainians say it's only a matter of time before Chasiv Yar falls, but that's okay because Chasiv Yar itself, right, is not a major urban area. It's another town, and frankly, it will allow the Ukrainians to buy them time. Time is in their favor in the short term, right? So as the ISW assesses, while the first deliveries of U.S. military aid are going to arrive to the front line this week, it's going to take a bunch more weeks before they really scale up, right? New York Times reported yesterday that the first installment of assistance, right, anti-armor weapons, missiles, and 155 artillery shells, likely they mean air defense missiles, but they may mean deep strike missiles, has arrived, but this is just a small portion of the $60 billion, right? This is the, in the military, we called it a speedball, right? This is a prepackaged logistics dump where okay, so not to overcomplicate it, but in logistics, there's push and there's pull, right? And push means that you get something you didn't ask for. Right? They say, listen, we know you're a unit in combat, and so we're going to make our best guess what you need, and we're going to push it to you. You don't have to ask for it. We're going to send you, for example, if you're an infantry squad, you can guess what would be in a push package, right? Like a speed, it would be, small arms rounds. It would be medical gear, food, water, right? And maybe some rounds for things like mortars and individual or crew-served weapons, right? That's what you would push. And if you want to make sure you can get it quickly, what you'll do is in one little pallet, something you could fit in the back of a pickup truck or fit in the back of a 5-ton or drop from an airplane, right? You're going to put it on a pallet. You're going to wrap it up tight. And then you're going to put a little bit of everything they need in there. And you're going to say, listen, you don't have either you don't have to ask or you just call us. You say, listen, send some stuff our way. We're a little low on ammo. No planning needed. They take that pallet, they throw it on the pickup truck, off they go. It's called a speedball. Well, you can scale that up. And I suspect that the U.S. military had a speedball of Ukrainian stuff too. Because you notice that destroying tanks, destroying aircraft, and destroying infantry are the three things that Ukraine needs to do to Russia. And those are the three things that are in this initial package. So I think this was all of these were sitting on pallets. They had trucks on standby. And as soon as the ink was dry on it, they pushed it. But remember, Ukraine's got to take it. They've got to unpack it. They've got to figure out where it needs to go. They've got to put it on their own trucks and then move it through their logistics system to get to the front lines. And so that's probably what the U.S. did here, but it's a small fraction of the $60 billion, right? The big wave takes more time. It takes more effort. It takes a lot more of everything. And so, right, a senior U.S. official, citing a classified assessment, said that Russia's probably going to continue to make marginal gains in the east and southeast, leading up to May 9th, right, in 4 days. And then Russian forces probably don't have enough manpower to do any other large-scale offensive effort. The U.S. military thinks the Ukrainian front line not going to collapse in the near term. But remember, they said the same thing about the Afghan government, and boy, were they wrong, despite these severe shortages. But again, the shortages likely feeling a little less pressing given that the tidal wave is going to come. It's just going to come in a number. It's going to be measured in probably weeks, maybe up to 2 months. That would be my prediction. So anyway, guys, that is all I had for you. A huge thank you to the Colonel tier members at CombatVetNews.com. A huge thank you to the Lieutenant tier members and to all the members of CombatVetNews.com. I will see you guys in the next one. Cheers.